Dear friends and students, in this video, we will be discussing balanced growth and unbalanced growth. As you know, this often forms an important part of the development economic syllabus in most of the universities. And first, we shall discuss the balanced growth in this video. And the part second of this video will explain the unbalanced growth. Let me explain what is this. Uh, Balanced growth, or what's the meaning of the balanced growth? Balanced growth simply implies harmonious development of various different sectors of an economy. You know that in every economy there are different sectors: manufacturing sector, industrial sector, service sector, and the sector producing heavy industry, sector producing small scale products, sector producing cottage, means industrial output. And therefore, in an economy, you can see in quite a different kinds of sectors. Balanced growth simply implies a harmonious development of all these sectors alike. So we are not separating out any sector. We do not create any kind of discrimination between the sectors. What we do is that we try to develop all sectors alike. That is what's meaning of the balanced growth. It implies growth in every kind of capital stock. That means capital stock employed in the agriculture sector, in the industrial sector, service sector. So every kind of capital stock that is being employed in all sectors grows alike, or we invest in all capital stock of all type of sectors. Balanced growth refers to investment in integrated projects. So therefore, means if you put money in integrated projects, then not only a particular project will be developed, but the projects connected with that or that project will also be developed. So it's a kind of investment in integrated projects. So in different ways you can define balanced growth. You could say that it is harmonious development of different sectors of an economy. It is investment, or it is putting more money into the capital stock of every kind of business in our country. And it could be investment in integrated projects. It says all sectors should expand in the same proportion so that consumption, investment, and income grow at the same rate. See here, you can see that you can see a situation where all things, for example, here, delta C upon C, it is the rate of growth of consumption, and it is a rate of growth of income. Sorry, investment, it's a rate of growth of income. So that means the consumption, investment, and income grow at the same rate in all sectors. R.F. Harrod opines balanced growth attempts to balance the growth rate of income, output, and natural sources. So you have this means equilibrium, or you have this where your income growth rate is equal to the output growth rate, which is equal to natural growth rate. Mrs. John Robinson's concept of golden age also implies balanced growth rate. That's a situation where rate of growth of capital, delta K upon K, is equal to the rate of growth of labor. That means simply these are different ways of expression of balanced growth strategy. Simply it means a situation where we invest in all sectors alike, and we witness a situation where all means where all sectors grow at the same pace. So there is no discrimination. So therefore, it is harmonious development of all sectors in an economy. That's the meaning of balanced growth. Now, how do we explain this balanced growth rate? Two kinds of explanations are of it here. One, you can say an original explanation, and the other is a later explanation. And let us see what is the original explanation of balanced growth. The original explanation of balanced growth rate that depends upon the concept of indivisibilities. It says the economy needs to invest to overcome indivisibilities on both supply and demand side of development process. So you have a supply side and you have demand side of the development process. And in both demand and supply side, there could be a lot of indivisibilities. That means certain inputs on the supply side, certain inputs could not be used in a divided form or in what you call by part by part. You cannot use it. So you have to use it in full sync, or you have to fully operate that. So therefore, certain things are there which cannot be debated. On demand side also, you have some kind of means output which cannot be demanded in part. You have to demand it in full. So therefore, in an economy, you can see indivisibilities on both the supply and demand side. So therefore, these indivisibilities need to be overcome. So it says that the economy needs to invest to overcome indivisibilities on both the supply and demand side. Then, indivisibilities on the supply side refer to lumpiness of capital, especially social overhead capital. For example, you take the case of the road, railway, road, port, etc. So you cannot cut into small parts suited to a particular use. So these things have to be used in full swing, in full operation. So therefore, many of the social overhead capital, not only social overhead capital, many of the physical capital like the machines also are of this indivisible in nature. So therefore, indivisibility on the supply side refer to the lumpiness of capital, especially in the case of the social overhead capital. Hence, investment in a large number of activities simultaneously take advantage of various external economies of scale. The argument of big push is led to the existence of the external economies of scale. So here, the big push argument has some sort of implication here, because that argument clearly says that the investment economy needs a big push. We do not require any kind of a small piece of investment or small dose of investment that is insufficient. So what we need is a big push. A big push is needed to take the economy out of the inertia, or out of what is called the low-level equilibrium trap. So investment in a large number of activities take advantage of external economies of scale. That means the advantages. What is external economies of scale? External economies of scale refer to the advantages that accrue to the firms because of development taking place outside the firm. So in order to enable the firms, or in order to enable the economy, or in order to enable different sectors in the economy to take advantage of the external economies of scale, we need investment in a large number of activities together. So this argument is akin to the argument of the big push theory, which again says that an economy needs a sufficiently high level of investment to take that economy out of what you call the low-level equilibrium trap. So big push goes along with the argument of balanced growth. Then let us see on the demand side. On the demand side, indivisibilities refer to the limitations imposed by the size of the market and profitability, and hence feasibility of economic activities. Means size of the market and profitability. There are some limitations imposed by the size of the market, because as I said, you cannot have a part by part market. You have to demand certain commodities in its full swing. So therefore, in its full form. So indivisibilities on the demand side refers to the limitations imposed by the size of the market and profitability. This argument is akin to the argument put forward by Adam Smith that specialization or division of labor is limited by the extent of the market. So on the demand side, indivisibilities argument can be said to be equal to the argument put forward by Adam Smith that specialization or division of labor can also be limited by the extent of the market. So this is the original explanation, or you can say the early explanation of the balanced growth. So early explanation of the balanced growth rate, idea of balanced growth rate gives emphasis to what you call indivisibilities. Here, the original explanation actually refers to the indivisibilities on both supply side and demand side. Now let us come to the later explanation. Big push was later extended to refer to the path of economic development and pattern of investment necessary to keep different sectors of economy in balance so that lack of development in one sector does not impede development on the other. It simply means the path of economic development and pattern of investment, the way of economic development that we follow, what kind of development we follow, means are we following means a social overhead capital led development or a consumption led development or an investment led development. So the path of economic development that we follow and the pattern of investment that we do means what kind of investment we are actually trying to make. These two things are very necessary to keep different sectors of the economy in balance so that lack of development in one sector does not impede or adversely affect the development of the other sectors. So when you invest in one sector, you have to keep in mind the fact that the investment in that sector should not lead to the disturbance of development in other sectors. That means lack of development in one sector does not impede development in other sectors. No, balance among different sectors. Under balanced growth, the main question is which sector needs to be given priority in investment allocation. This is the main question that we face in balanced growth rate. It is suggested that direct investment be made in the growing sectors. But selection of growing sectors is not an easy task. Hence, there could be contradictions in the choice of growing sectors. Here we analyze some such issues. So therefore, here we have to choose certain sectors for balanced growth rate to happen. So how do we select such sectors? To select such sectors, we need to analyze some issues. One is there should be a balance between agriculture and industry. These two sectors, we know they are complementary to each other in many ways, means from many theories of unlimited supplies of labor, we come to know that the excess labor from the agriculture sector could be utilized in the industrial sector. Means the unlimited supply of the labor in the agriculture sector can be taken to the industrial sector, and by doing that, both the industrial sector and the agriculture sector can develop in the long run. So disguised unemployment in the agriculture sector is a source of labor to the industrial sector. Disguised unemployment simply means the marginal productivity of the labor is zero or negligible. Therefore, they are not at all required there. Even if they are withdrawn, the output remains the same. Output won't be affected. So disguised unemployment in agriculture sector is a source of labor to the industrial sector, and it expands demand for manufacturing sector and mobilizes saving for the industrial sector. Manufacturing sector also helps to expand the development in the agriculture sector. The linkage between these sectors contribute a lot to the balanced growth of a developing economy. So first, you can think of having a balance between the agriculture sector and industry, and because they are complementary to each other, industrial sector can help agriculture sector, and agriculture sector can also help the industrial sector by supplying necessary labor to the industrial sector, because labors are said to be in excess of the requirement in the agriculture sector. Perhaps because of this reason, the agriculture sector is experiencing what is generally referred to as the disguised unemployment. So because of this disguised unemployment, the labors could be taken away from the agriculture sector to the industrial sector. And this is often cited as a very old argument that can also be put in favor of the balanced growth strategy. Or this could be an important way of balancing the economy. That means you are investing both in the agriculture and industrial sector under the presumption that since they are complementary and they would help each other in course of time in the development process of the economy. Second, make a balance between human capital and material capital. You know that these are very divergent things, human capital and material capital, but human capital is very essential to operate the material capital. So if there is material capital alone, then that will not be helpful for the economy. If the material capital is to be used, then human capital must be updated. So investment in human capital improves the quality of manpower and increases the flow of goods and services in the economy. National income, of course, rises, leading to an increase in purchasing power. And this leads to expansion of effective demand, which in turn encourages investment in material capital. So economic development therefore implies capital formation and skill formation. So two things are very necessary for development to happen. We need capital formation and we need skill formation. Both are very essential and both are complementary to each other in some ways also. Now, you can think of having a balance between domestic trade and foreign trade. Balanced growth requires a balance between domestic and foreign trade. Expansion of domestic trade is essential for raising the flow of goods and services, while expansion of foreign trade is essential for earning foreign exchange. So, to ensure that goods and services flow between different parts of the country, you need the expansion of domestic trade. As domestic trade is expanded, then the demand for commodities by the people residing within the country will get raised, and that will be pushed to the manufacturing sector in the economy. And if you export more commodities to the outside through the expansion of foreign trade, then you will be getting more and more foreign exchange earnings. So therefore, keep a balance between domestic trade and foreign trade, or a country should strive equally hard to invest both in the domestic trade and foreign trade, which is essential for balanced growth rate to happen. And what are the basic elements of balanced growth rate? And you know that balanced growth rate is a very dynamic concept. It implies two approaches to the problem of balance between demand and supply. So both sides should be balanced. Demand and supply side must be balanced. It recognizes the significance of interdependence. Interdependence is very essential. Means every economy sector is not independent of the other sectors, but what we need is interdependence among different sectors. So therefore, one important point as far as balanced growth rate is concerned is that it stresses the significance of interdependence. It is annexed with big push theory based on indivisibilities in production function, demand, and supply. So it is very akin to the or very similar to the or it is supported by the big push theory and big push theory. And big push theory, as you know, that theory is stressing the indivisibilities. So in the earlier explanation of the balanced growth rate, we have just seen that balanced growth rate stresses indivisibilities. It supports the use of planning in development. And Rodin looks upon balanced growth rate in terms of planned industrialization. So balanced growth, that means to ensure that all sectors grow alike, all sectors grow at the same time, we need a planning. Government-led planning is very essential. Then only all sectors will grow at the same time. In the absence of the government, you can hardly think of a situation where all sectors grow at the same pace. Because in capitalist way of development, we observe situations where some sectors lag behind, whereas some sectors move ahead. So therefore, balanced growth rate is very essential to ensure that all sectors grow alike, and all sectors means they lead to development of the economy, and therefore planned development is very essential. Next idea of balanced growth rate explains a synchronized application of capital to a wide range of industries. So, and Louis' version of balanced growth is associated with development programs. And what are the essential conditions for balanced growth rate? And following are the essential conditions for maintaining balanced growth rate among different sectors of the economy. Let us see one by one. First is state intervention. So, of course, state intervention is very essential. That is what is highlighted by the need of planning to bring about the elements of balanced growth rate in an economy. The state can enforce and maintain law and order. It can mobilize necessary funds through taxes, borrowing, deficit financing to meet financial requirements of balanced growth rate. So balanced growth rate needs a lot of money because we are not investing in one or two sectors. We are investing in many sectors, in many chosen sectors at the same time. We try to find out the complementarities. We try to find out the relationship between the sectors, and we do investment in all sectors alike. In human capital, we are investing. In material capital, we are investing. Agriculture sector, we are investing. Industry sector, we do the investment. So therefore, investment is undertaken in most of the complementary sectors at the same time. Therefore, we need a lot of money. And where does the money come from? And this money has to be mobilized by the government. either through taxation, or the government can go on borrowing, or it must do a deficit financing or to meet financial requirements of the balanced growth rate. And for all these things to happen, means surely we need state intervention. Second, we need planning, formulation, and implementation of plans. Balanced growth requires fixing of financial and physical targets for different sectors and judicious resource allocation consistent with their needs. So we must fix physical targets, financial targets. So where should the money go, and what are the sectors to be developed? So for that things we need strict planning, and we need to formulate and implement plans. And third important requirement or condition for balanced growth rate to happen is coordination among different sectors, departments of the government. So balanced growth requires cooperation, coordination, and proper understanding among various government departments and state agencies. And public cooperation, of course, it's very essential. People should cooperate with the government for these things to happen, and they must not act against the government, because government is in an effort of investing in all sectors. So public cooperation is very, very essential. And what are the advantages of balanced growth rate? Here we list out certain advantages. We don't explain each advantages in detail, but we just list out. It is essential for balanced regional development. It widens the market, extent of the market. It results in division of labor. It results in what is called external economies of scale, and it creates a lot of social overhead capital in the economy, and it finally leads to innovation and research. And critical appraisal of the balanced growth theory. First, of course, is deficiency of capital. The question is, if the economy is in deficit as far as the capital is concerned, then how the economy can take this forward? This is an important question. Second, inadequacy of resources, disproportionality in factors of productions. Because some economies do have more capital, some economies do have more labor, then disproportionality in factors of productions. So how to address this issue? That's an important question. Cost reduction aspect not given due consideration. So for example, when all sectors grow alike or grow at the same time, then there will be an escalation of cost in the economy. And that will create a lot of problems. Capital lumpiness not essential for development. So this is an argument, because in today's world, we know that the capital lumpiness is not essential for development. Luxury for underdeveloped countries. This is, of course, a serious point. The critic says that it is a luxury for underdeveloped economies, because underdeveloped economies by nature, they are very poor. They are actually means afflicted by many kind of imbalances, many kind of impediments, impoverished economies. So how can the economy think of developing all sectors in a fine morning? So that is practically not possible. Therefore, critics says that the arguing that balanced growth rate should be implemented by underdeveloped economies, this seems to be a luxury for underdeveloped economies. Underdeveloped economies cannot think of doing that. Let us think of a poor man purchasing all kind of amenities all of a sudden on one day. It's a luxury for him. First of all, he cannot afford to purchase all things all of a sudden because he's very poor. So he can he can attain things one by one or year by year, but he cannot means have all these things all of a sudden in a fine morning. He cannot have all of these things. So it's a luxury for underdeveloped economies to think of the balanced growth rate. It's like asking a weak person to take a long jump. Then, of course, the last but not the least the point of criticism is inflation, because we invest in all sectors alike. We invest in X sector, Y sector, research sector, and we invest in N sectors alike. So when you invest in all sectors alike, more money will be pumped into the economy. And as people get more money, then definitely aggregate demand will increase related to aggregate supply. And that will definitely result in what is called increase in the prices, or this will definitely land the economy in what is called inflation. So these are the points of criticism leveled against the balanced growth strategy. So here we means stop the discussion of the balanced growth strategy. Thank you.